In this video, I'm going to talk about why there's a tank issue with Marvel Rivals. This is ruining matchmaking, especially ranked, and this is what it is. People don't want to play tanks in this game. Now, Angela just came out, and from what I played so far, she's pretty cool, but I think there's a lot of curiosity about people experimenting with her, and all the DPS players seem to want to play her because she flies or something like that, right? So, other than that, for the most part, no one wants to play tanks in this games, and I see this in ranked matches where there's a 3 TPS, 1 tank, 2 strategist meta going on, and it just makes the game harder to win most of the time. We need more people to play tanks, but I'm going to talk about why people don't want to play tanks. I want to see if you agree with this or not. All right, the first reason people don't want to play tanks is that they're just slow and they're not very exciting. They don't move very fast. They're slow movement on the field. They don't have good escapes or ways to just quickly dodge and dash, with the exception of maybe the Thing and the Hulk, but that still doesn't seem to please people enough to want to play tanks. So because of the slow-moving nature of tanks, I think people are just not drawn to them. And now that I'm thinking about this, Penny has a quick escape with her web as well, and so I think people who play tanks, I see a lot of them, they don't use those. The good tank players who do enjoy playing tank know how to use the tank's escapes to dodge or just jump out of a situation back to your team, like someone playing the Thing or the Hulk can jump back to their team. But I see a lot of people, they're just going to ride and die. They just get out there as a tank and they just fight till the very end, and then they die and you get staggered and your chances of winning the match just go out the window. So people who do play tanks don't play them very appropriately. That's really for another video. I think another reason why people don't like to play tanks is that it's a thankless job and you get blamed for everything if the team is not advancing or holding the point. And it's really not fair because a tank is only effective if everything on the team is effective with the other players as well. So in other words, if the DPS players are helping you blast down the other tanks and getting picks, if your strategists are healing you and keeping you alive, all these things have to be in place. And if one of those things isn't in place, then you can't win the match. It's amazing how many ways you can lose a match and have a match feel like you're just being slaughtered in this game. But the blame goes on the tanks a lot of the time by people because they're saying, well, you're just being weak, you're not diving in, you're being wimpy, you're being a coward. And I can say this as someone who's been playing tank a lot more, that if it's a 4 or 5v1 situation, I'm not going in there and throwing. I'm not going to go there and feed that other team just to try to create a spot that's going to last a few seconds for my team. I like to wait until my team is there. I like to make sure that my back line is clear before I go in as a tank. That's just how I play. I can't survive as a tank if my strategists are getting dove by Magic or Hulk and tormented and they can't heal me. You can't win that way. We just can't. Again, that's for another video as far as dealing with divers and peeling, but tanks need to be able to make that decision on whether they're going to dive in and jump in and create space for their team, or whether to hold back and protect their team. It's really nuanced to decide how you're going to behave as a tank, and a lot of people will be unfair to you if they don't think that you're doing your job, even though it's other people on the team who aren't doing their job. Another reason people choose to pass over playing vanguards or tanks in this game is that there's just not as many characters and variety to choose from. People get bored of playing Magneto and Doctor Strange the whole time, and they just don't want to play that, whereas where there's like a million different DPS players to choose from. And so because of that variety, people are just passing on tanks. They don't want to play that same player over and over again. There's some boredom going on there. This is another reason people choose not to play tanks, and I think it's going to surprise you, is that tanks are harder to get higher scores with if you're combating other tanks and using a lot of your time and firepower into trying to take down other tanks. So for example, let's say you're pushing the objective and on convoy and you win the match, but if you look at the scores, your tank didn't get as many kills, but they did their job of creating space and engaging the other tanks. But because they were the ones fighting the other tanks and they weren't getting picks for the DPS or the strategists who are a little more squishy, their score didn't look as good. And people are just fascinated with the score. They're obsessed with score in this game, and they think, well, your score is not that good, you didn't do that as good. Well, remember, the purpose of the game is to dominate some territory or move an objective, and the score may not reflect the effectiveness of how that person played as a tank. And I know this myself as playing a tank. I'm really focused on fighting the other tanks, and because I feel like I'm the only one fighting the tanks. And so my score isn't as high a lot of times when I play a tank, even though I feel like I'm being effective in neutralizing or keeping those other tanks busy. And people might think, well, you're just not getting as many kills. Well, I'm doing my job. So, there's just a misconception about the score in this game. And I think people are like, you know what? This sucks. I don't like getting a low score. I want better scores. I want better statistics. So I'm not going to play a tank. And this leads me right into the next reason why people don't want to play tanks. And this is really the fault of the developers, is that they've set up this game to reward people with points after ranked matches. And you get more points if your statistics are better in the ranked match. Well, if you're a tank and your statistics aren't as good because maybe you got the right kills, you did everything you did to win the match, and you did the right thing, and you killed tanks, which was less kills than just going after strategists the whole time, or DPS players, right? And you don't get awarded as many points towards your rank after the match, then this really is a disincentive for people to play tanks in ranked matches. And this is the fault of the developers. They need to change that because people are ignoring playing tanks. They don't want to play tanks because they don't want to get punished for having a lower score in the game, or less eliminations, or having their statistics hurt, and then not being able to rank up as quickly. I think this is a real issue. The other reason I think people don't like to play tanks is that they're just not as powerful as DPS, and people want to do more damage with their attacks. Either the attacks are slower, or their cooldowns and abilities and skills just aren't as strong or as damage inducing as DPS players. And so people are like, well, why am I going to waste my time with Magneto, who takes a shot like every 0.3 seconds or something, where I can play Punisher, right, and get that satisfaction, that dopamine from just unloading the magazine in my gun, right, and having a rapid fire. I really think there is something to that. And I think the pace of tanks for people, again, it just goes back to this concept that things are too slow, the fire rates are too slow, the skills are not satisfactory, the alts seem lackluster to people, and they just don't want to play tanks for this reason. And it goes back to that, just our society and culture. People want things quickly, they want things fast, they want that dopamine drip in their brain, right, for getting DPS kills really quickly, and seeing that little KO icon on their heads up display on their game. And so I really think that's a big part of it. So people just aren't satisfied with that. What do you think of this? Do you think that this is an issue with tanks? Would you rather play a DPS if you're going to be attacking someone? To further support my point about this, there are no tanks in this game, no vanguards in this game that have hit scan abilities with their attacks. So in other words, if you have flyers or someone in the sky or someone moving pretty fast, it's all projectile damage, and so you have to kind of line up your shots to hit that character, right, as they run across the screen, which does take more skill. Whereas hit scan, as long as your cursor, your little targeting reticle is over that character, it's an instant hit if you're able to press the trigger or the space bar or mouse click, whatever it is that you're doing to attack in this game. And I think that's also a big deal to a lot of people, is that slow rates of fire and slow traveling projectiles or brawling or just low range attacks are what turn people off to tanks. I think the new tank Angela is pretty cool, but she's definitely a brawler, so there's no hit scan there going on, and I'm yet to see a tank that's going to have hit scan in this game. I think that would actually be pretty cool to see that happen, but I really think that's another reason why people don't want to play tank. I think the final reason why people don't want to play tanks is that you are the center of attention, and you're going to get more heat and fire than anyone else. So there's not really as much of an option to just go hide in a hallway or some point that's just undercover. You have a huge amount of responsibility. You're the leader of the team. You're setting the pace, you're defending, you're attacking, you're doing everything at once and trying to decide how to handle all those things to lead your team. And you're getting a brunt of the fire from the enemy team. And I think for a lot of people, that's just emotionally overwhelming, and it's not a fun way to play the game. So I think, can that be changed is really the question. Not really. That's just the focus of the tank. And can people find joy, and should people find joy in being a leader and playing a character and leading the team, and playing that character that is going to take on most of the heat so that your team can set up plays? I actually think this should be something more people should strive to do. And so that's more of a cultural issue. And again, it goes back to what I've said in another video, is that we have a very individualistic society where people are all about themselves and they think about themselves and not really like a team player. And so when they approach this game, to be a tank, you really need to be a team player. You need to be thinking about what everyone on your team is doing and what everyone on the other team is doing all at the same time. Whereas if you're a DPS, you're Spider-Man, you can go off and do your own thing and hide and take your time, and it's all about you and what you're doing to the other team. You don't have to think about your team at all. So there's a lot of selfishness in our society, and Marvel Rivals is just a visual indication of that selfishness in society. And we're losing matches because people are selfish. So people need to stop being selfish. They need to be team players. They need to find fun and joy in playing these characters and step up to this kind of responsibility. I think there needs to be more good tank players. I have a main in almost every I have Lord in almost every strategist in this game, and I love playing strategists, but I've been playing more tank than ever because I feel like if no one else is going to lead, then I need to get up and lead. At least there's something I can do to try to help my team, because no one else seems to want to play tank. What do you think of this? Do you agree with this? I'd love to hear your feedback on it. Please like and subscribe to this channel, like the video. And I'm streaming live a lot more, so if any of you want to jump in and play ranked or quick play in Marvel Rivals, I'd love to hear from you. I play on PlayStation 5, and have a great rest of your week.